Welcome. I'm Scott Parody. These last couple of sessions, I talked about the rules of the money game, the two parts of the money game, the value creation money game and the financial power money game, and how the game is played. This time, I want to take a few minutes and look from a broader perspective. There's an old adage that whoever controls the money controls society. It's a truism. The political power has always realized if I can control the money, then I can control the society. And I have a question for you. I have a few slides. We'll just go through these rather quickly. First of all, we know historically that violence has been the go-to means of gaining power and wealth. We look at whoever our opponent is. If we are in a advantage physically, we typically take whatever we want. The survival of the fittest is typically a take game. But somewhere along the line, we realized that we can actually come together, collaborate, and create. And that's when prosperity and the evolution of human society began. We realized that if we collaborate and create, everyone prospers. To do that, however, that was the foundation of an economy. To do that, we created money. Money facilitates the functioning of the real economy. As people create value, they bring that value to a marketplace and exchange that value. Money facilitates that exchange. However, traditionally, always, what ends up happening is we empower money. By that, I mean, the foundation of an economy is us doing productive things for each other. But then we realize we use money to facilitate the exchange. And then we say, well, wait a minute, rather than creating value and bringing value to the marketplace, all I have to do is get money. If I just get money, then I can get whatever I want. That's how we empower money. Once we empower money, ambitious, smart, cunning people realize that if I get control of the money, then I can get all that I want, all that I need. And so we empower money, and then money becomes what we're after. Well, very simply, throughout history, the political power grabs control of the money. It has always been centralized. I say I'm making a sweeping statement, but as you look at the history of most societies and empires, the control of the money gets centralized in the political authority, in the sovereign, in the king, the emperor, the sultan, the pharaoh, whatever it may be. In the United States, what we did was we resisted centralizing control of money for about 125 years. Well, as always, which is the cunning folks realized whoever controls the money controls society. So they moved and moved and moved and pushed and pushed and pushed until finally, in 1913, Congress gave us the Federal Reserve. President Woodrow Wilson signed the Federal Reserve Act, and we created the Federal Reserve, which centralized control of the money. So now money was in the hands of the financiers. There was a balance struck that said, hey, the government will have some say, but essentially the financiers finally gained control of the money. Well, what do you do when you have absolute control? What happens with absolute power? It only took a generation, less than a generation for the financiers to screw the whole thing up. They blew the entire system up. So now the power, which had been completely in the hands of the financiers, they blew it up. Now the government, they need the government to step in to stabilize the system. Well, it took the government about a generation, about 20 years, from 1930 to about 1950, and we had to have a world war that finally stabilized our financial system. And we get the Bretton Woods system in 1944 coming out of World War II, and we stabilized the financial system. But now the control of the money has shifted from cleanly and distinctly under the monopoly of the financiers. Because the financiers blew it, they moved it back to government. So now government has absolute control of the money, supported by the financiers. Well, it took about a generation, so we get the 60s and the 70s, until the politicians blew the whole system up. And then finally, Richard Nixon takes us completely off the gold standard. We destroy the monetary system But they came up with a creative way of salvaging the monetary system, but shifted control back to the financiers. So now, going through the 80s and the 90s, the financiers have control of the monetary system. Again, now supported by the politicians. And then what we have is we have them destroying the system again in 2008. So the system is the power that had gotten control of the system keeps screwing it up every single time. This time the financiers did it. Well, they get bailed out by the government. There are a lot of contributing factors, but essentially it came down to the subprime mortgage fiasco that created the collapse of the financial system as we knew it. Financiers had blown the whole thing up. But an interesting thing happened. Millions of people's homes were taken away from them. Millions. But the bankers coincidentally got bonuses. Gotta love it. It's this symbiotic relationship between the financiers and the politicians. So now the system, interestingly enough, the financiers maintain control of the system, even coming through the 2008 debacle. And they've been able to maintain that control until we're in the mess that we're in now. But what can typically happens is whoever controls the money controls the society. So the financiers have gained complete control of the money supported by the politicians. But the question for you that I'm proposing is, why do we want this? Why do we want this? The question is, you and I are complicit to this system. This is not something we can blame on them. It's not their fault. They were opportunists. If we were in that opportune position, we'd take advantage of those opportunities as well. The question I have for you is, why do we, the people, the masses, why do we want this system? Why do we allow, operate, continually vote for these political parties that just promote this system? Why do we want it? That's my question. Please put some comments, have some thoughts, send me a note. What do you think about this question? Why are we tolerating this cycle of abuse that the few benefit while the masses carry the weight? Why do we want it that way? What is about our nature that causes us to do this? I'd like to hear your thoughts. So please, by all means, give me your thoughts. I have my own thoughts to this, and this is part of this project that I have about money, why we do this. So let me hear from you, and I'll talk to you again soon.